Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to be trying out a brew for Historic that I found online. So I cannot pronounce this user's name. It looks like an auto-generated password from Google, but 2CAC5002 whatever yada 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 went 32 and 4 with this particular Golgari. It's a graveyard deck, but also kind of a backdoor combo deck. So we'll take a look at the deck itself. We're going to try it out. I just made some tweaks to the mana base per my own personal preference, but we'll play some games with it. So if we pop into the deck list itself, we have a couple options here. So the kind of core combo is with Emperor Bones, you get to exile up to one target card from a graveyard each turn. And then whenever a counter is put on Emperor Bones, you get to put a creature card from exile with Emperor Bones onto the battlefield under your control with finality counter, gains haste, sacrifice it at the beginning of the end step. Now, with Ulamog, Ulamog sees itself in exile when it comes into play, so you don't get the cast trigger, but you do get the ETB trigger. So with the ETB trigger, it comes in with 10 counters, so it's a 17 power, so it's basically a 10-10, like it's a 17 power 10 annihilator with haste. So it just kind of wipes out your opponent's board, hopes, dreams, all that jazz, which is pretty sweet, all things considered. So the rest of the deck, what we're trying to do is just be a graveyard-centric deck. So the only change I made for the main, they were playing 4 Grist Voracious Larva. I want to try out Massacre Worm. I have this crazy idea in my head. Energies all over the place. They make a lot of 1 and 2 power or toughness creatures. Massacre Worm just wipes it out. It's another creature we could kind of reanimate as well, so it's kind of cool with that. The Grist cares about if either Grist or another creature enters the battlefield under your control. If it was banner from the graveyard or you cast from the graveyard, you can pay a green, and then you get to flip Grist. It makes insects and mills you, destroys an artifact or enchantment, or its ultimate lets you create a copy of each creature in your graveyard, but it is a 1/1 insect. So you get a giant 1/1 Ulamog insect. We got some Nethergoyfs. We're going to try this card out as well. Just kind of a Tarmogoyf adjacent. Urborgoyf lets us mill, kind of get some value that way there. Fatal Push is removal. Unearth for reanimation. Bitter Triumph as a way to kind of discard, like say, Ulamog from hand or your big things. Chthonian Nightmare as a way to reanimate. We also have Ripples of Undeath. 2 mana lets us mill, and then we can pay 1 mana and 3 life if we do put a card from among them into our hand. We have Buried Alive to kind of assemble combo pieces, and then we have 6, which lets us, so it's a reach creature, it mills us, it helps us ramp potentially by putting lands from our hand, and then we could also retrace. So basically discard a land from our hand, and then we can cast any of the non-land permanents in our graveyard. So it's another way to kind of get the Emperor Bones back. So you get Emperor Bones back with Chthonian Nightmare, you can get it with Unearth, you can get it with 6. So lots of ways to kind of mill it over. What I changed with the mana base was they were playing 2 of each of the channel lands. There's only 22 lands. I'm worried that more often than not, we're going to draw into multiples, which would hurt us. So I replaced those with 2 Nurturing Peat lines, just a way to get some card advantage. And then I replaced 2 of the additional basics with some pathways. So that's how we're going to kind of approach it. So I'm going to do a kind of a curated set of games. Check at the end, we'll do a wrap up in terms of the stats, and I'll give my general opinions of the deck itself. So we'll demo it a couple times, see how often we can do the combo, and then I'll point out what I think it feels like relative to the format at the end of the wrap up. So we'll catch you for the games and for the wrap up. Okay, quickly jumping into our first game. We did get Mythic with Boros Energy, had a really high win rate going in. So with this deck here, we have a bit of the combo. We can set up Fatal Push on 1, Urborg, llurmogoyf as well. So this is a May, right? Up to 1 target. I think we try this out. So mono green might be a bit of an issue, just given that they are able to use Karn to fetch Graveyard Hate. So that's something worth noting. Oh, this might just be Elves. With Elves, we'll just get this going. Exile at their graveyard. Kind of see from there. I compete land. I also have Urborg, llurmogoyf. They are going to get to go pretty wide here. Something like a Priest of Titania will be a bit scary. So we will kick here. Okay, so we did get Ulamog. So I'm just going to get the... Actually not going to get it this turn, in case they find a removal spell. But we'll be able to Ulamog next turn. Actually, I guess we could have still, because I had Unearth, so probably right anyways, but they are assembling quite the board. All right, so... Oh, you know what? I messed up. I needed to do that before, because now it doesn't get the haste. So sequencing was a little incorrect there. Because it's already at combat. So at the beginning of your combat, let's see. Should I just take an Ulamog last time? So we'll just do this. Do it for next turn. That was a bit of a mistake, so they are going to be able to get pretty wide in terms of their board now. So a bit of an error there, just learning kind of the sequencing. Should have done it last turn. Pretty big board here. Taking 9 is fine. This way it takes off one more blocker. We'll adapt here. We get Ulamog. Uh, 0. Confusing with the stack. This is pre-combat main. So we got the Ulamog coming in, Annihilator 10 on the stack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So almost a clean sweep of the board. So just the sequencing thing, just the pre-combat main. Just we got to be mindful of when we're kind of playing that out, but we would have had it turn 4. All right. I guess we could have attacked for lethal, but wanted to do the Ulamog thing. All right. Technically not dead yet. Beginning of your pre-combat main, you're gonna let me go to my main? They're just getting priority from Wirewood. So now they're gonna rope us. Okay, so now they are close to dead. So we can go to combat. If I make a copy, so that's already got counters on it, which is worth noting. I can escape back llurmogoyf, but we'll just go to combat here. So it's probably worth just proactively kind of grabbing things. Actually, they're dead regardless. Anyway, they block, I just get the 3 damage through. So, a little sloppy, but first time playing the deck. Did powerful things, which is what we want to see. I do need to see through trying out if we go to combat with full control and then go exile and then put it into play. So that's something we're going to want to try out. But first game in the books, catch for the next one. Alrighty, jumping into another one. And looks reasonable. We can go aggressive. We have interaction early. Urborg can mill us, as does the 6. I do think I want Stitcher and Stitcher Supplier over Grist. Drawing Ulamog's kind of annoying. Gates deck. It's only in your graveyard. A bit of a slower start for us here. So this is when it attacks you, mill. Let's just start by doing this. Okay, so it hit the Massacre Worm. Could sweep us the next turn. Bladunkadunk. Interesting, they took the shock there. I mean, we're just going fair beatdown here. I do think I want, like, Stitcher Supplier. Braces for 2, doesn't do too much. It hit Ulamog. They're just dead. All right, just fair beatdown kind of work there. So we'll take that one. Jumping into another one. We got Grist, we got Unearth, we got Fatal Push. So the Unearth can enable Grist, which is kind of cool. We can flip it over. So we can see how good that interaction is. One thing to note, it with the combo with Emperor Bones, you can't exile and then put it into play. It goes to your next, because it's at the beginning of your combat, exile up to 1 target. So it didn't work the way that we wanted. Opponent mulligans. They name Eldrazi. They need to be worried about Chalice for 1. Given that they have this priority, I'm thinking that they maybe have Chalice for 1. Still kind of confused by this. Whenever 1 or more counters are put on it, exile, it gains haste. Should work in theory. What's the opponent doing? Gonna play Chalice or not? Seiju comes down. Seiju coming down now before we get like ripples or something out. Good. Yeah. Called it. Called it. So a bit annoying, obviously. But our key kind of combo piece is a 2-mana spell. This taking like a full turn cycle a little annoying. They missed their line drop. I think we decline. Just play out 6 here. Because we can retrace the Nurturing Peatland if we want to get back llurmogoyf here. It'd be nice with like an Earth to be able to do so, but it's going to get countered by the Chalice. We could potentially... That's actually interesting. So auto pay. Get back Emperor Bones. Let's go to combat first. Okay, so we did hit Ulamog. So I do have the ability to retrace here. Let's decline. See what they do here. But I can go Emperor of Bones now that we have Ulamog in the graveyard, and then kind of go from there. This is harder to flip than some of the other walkers, at least in this particular build. So I'm going to put this... I know this is going to get countered, but it goes into my graveyard, so then I can escape it back if we need to. Okay, not even letting us do the thing. We're going to Ulamog them next turn and just end their life. All right, catch for the next one. Alrighty. Playing against a mythic numbered player. And looks reasonable. Kill something, ripples on 2, Urborg or 6 on 3, and then start that going. We have Emperor as well, so we might just be able to kind of set up the combo. Could be energy. High noon. We'll get ripples going, because depending on what we hit, could be reasonable. This looks like mono white control. Line here. Just going to start trying to get some value. Drawing double fatal push, probably not great in this matchup. Could be then. We can kick it again next turn. Taxes deck. Could also just try to go 6 here. Oh, they're just 8 bears. I think we're gonna pay 1 to get the land to hand. Do they have like reprieve or something? Set up the Massacre Worm. Dragon goes away, so this is something that can get eternalized for 4 mana. Token copy. Activate only as a sorcery. So I'm waiting to see here what they do. They go to combat, then I will unearth, or I will fatal push the Luminarch. So a bit annoying that this is just a little outside of our range. What I can do is Massacre Worm and then Revolt it. Klein. Massacre Worm comes down. You take a chunk there. Get rid of Timeless Dragon. So that gets removed. And then we revolt here. We're in a pretty good spot. If they can make some tokens, we do have to be mindful they have 5 damage with High Noon. So what do we got? We got a second Emperor. Isn't too bad. I could go Chthonian Nightmare. I can just set up the Wren this turn. Wren would let me retrace, but let's take Haven Interrupter. And then we go 6. Play this tapped. The Massacre Worm came pretty clutch there. If they kill something here, they can kill my 6. Might have been right to see what they do here. They have to block, otherwise it's lethal. Means they don't get to pop High Noon just yet. I can retrace. I go Chthonian Nightmare. Do this. It's the biggest thing. High Noon is players can't cast more than 1. I could just cycle that if needed. So they need a bit of removal here. Cool. Took down high number Mythic. I didn't get quite the combo, but still just enough to kind of interact. Massacre Worm played pretty nicely there, just to sweep up their board with the Fatal Push, which all in all was pretty impressive. So we'll catch for the wrap-up. Wrap-up time! So we ended up going 4-1 with the deck. You saw the 4 wins in the video. We lost to Mardu Energy from like number 200 Mythic. They just curved out really well. They were able to flip a Johnny on 2, and technically had the combo. Basically, just had to untap, and I could have Ulamog them, but they had enough removal that kind of got us from that point. Having played the deck, what are our thoughts? Don't like Grist. Just didn't do much. We're not really bringing back stuff. I wanted more ways to kind of fill our graveyard. We had games where we had the Nethergoyf, but not enough things in the graveyard, similar with Urborg llurmogoyf. I think all things considered, Grist is probably better suited as Stitcher Supplier. I would probably cut the Buried Alive and the Grist, just play more Stitcher Suppliers, and then that gives you a full set of Stitchers. The llurmogoyf was fine. I think playing maybe another Masker Worm just as an additional threat could be reasonable, kind of playing into that. The Unearths were fine as well. We didn't really get to do it too often. One of the concerns, you do have to wait like a full turn cycle, so you do need to kind of bait out stuff early. Just try to get rid of some of the removal, stuff like that. But 6 was fine. It allowed you to mill and then kind of recast some of the stuff. Even just with the retrace, it's a way we can recast some of these. I do think against the Boros, like in just the energy-based decks, we might want one more piece of removal. But I think just cut Buried Alive, cut the Grist, play 4 Stitcher Supplier, even just playing like another copy of llurmogoyf, or even just one of the like 1 mana plus discard a card or sack a creature to kill something could be reasonable there. Just other ways to kind of pitch your effects might be good. But yeah, I think that was fine. The Ripples did a reasonable job. You do have to be mindful of your life total. And this is another card that requires a full turn cycle. So this might be something where if you're doing the Stitcher Suppliers, you might want to go to Deadly Disputes or something of that nature. So all in all, we won a lot more than we lost. And I think the deck can be definitely reviewed. This package, like the Emperor of Bones, just kind of rebuying stuff, feels pretty strong. You could look with more Masker Worms at potentially Persist as a card. This could be a deck that you kind of tweak where it could be like black-white reanimator and then kind of go from there. So there's a couple different ways you can kind of look at this package, but I think Emperor of Bones just being a cheat into play haste big effect, kind of a sneak and show effect, was kind of reasonable, all things considered. So definitely something to kind of work on and improve. But let me know what you think in the comments. We'll catch you next time. Thanks.